This is the Stop Time Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hopkins, and I'm here to engage you in thought-provoking, motivational conversations around practicing the art of living in the moment. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm excited to dig deep and offer insights into embracing who we are and where we are at. Right. So today I am speaking with Analise Scarpaci, who at the ripe age of 20 years old has already appeared twice on Broadway in Matilda and A Christmas Story, and is currently playing Lydia Hillard in Mrs. Doubtfire, which was set to open on April 5th, but shut down just 3 days, I think, after its first preview due to the global pandemic. So Analise, I am super excited about chatting with you today. Thank you so much for agreeing to spend time on this Stop Time podcast. Listen,
thank you so much.
Yeah, if it's okay with you, I would love to just jump right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. So I'm dying to ask you, do you remember the moment on March 12th when Broadway shut down?
Oh, yes. We were rehearsing. So we had our previews and I was at the theater with all of my friends, and there were like rumors going around saying they're shutting down. I guess I was totally in La La Land. I had no idea what was going on, which is so wrong of me, but I was so focused on the show and everything was so exciting and so happy around me that I just had no idea what was happening. So when they announced that we were shutting down, I found out on social media first, which personally I wasn't a fan of. Our producer was on his way over to tell us, but social media got to it first. Thousands of text messages from family and friends. I had to put my phone to the side and not pay attention to it. I was so upset, but I knew that it was the right thing to do. I was just so shocked that it actually happened.
Yeah.
It was just so crazy.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And it sounds like actually that you were really living in the moment and savoring every moment of the process.
I was.
And then
It
makes
nuts.
sense. It kind of makes sense that you were sort of not aware of the outside world.
I was so blindsided. I was like, oh, what is happening? I mean, you know what? I just moved into my first apartment. I was living on my own for the first time ever. And I was like going to the theater and going back. I was living the dream. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. And it was the craziest feeling in the whole world.
So
and then my mom came in and was like, let's go home. I was like, home, back to my house. Great. Okay.
Oh my God. Shocker. And what was the timeline with that? With like from the moment you got the text message to the moment that your mom said, let's go home, or we're going home?
I got the message at like 1:30 that I guess they announced the shutdown at like around 12 p.m., 1 o'clock. And then we were still there at rehearsal and we had a big meeting and we were all there until 4. I left at 4 and my mom, I was with Maria, who was my understudy and in our ensemble. She's 18 and she is from Ohio. And my mom took the two of us because we were just a complete mess. And then we went back to my apartment and my mom said, okay, after this, we're going to go out to dinner. The three of us are going to go out to dinner. We're going to take Maria back to her apartment and then we're going to go home. I was like,
wow.
What? Complete tears everywhere. It was just, I was a mess.
What was your first thought? Do you remember? Like, so when you're in that, like you said, you described you were in the zone, you were kind of unaware, you got the text. What was your first thought when you got the text?
I didn't believe it.
Mm.
I thought they were lying. I don't like to believe the news and what things say. I was waiting for Kevin. I said, it's not happening until Kevin comes here and tells us that it's happening. Charity, she plays our social worker in the show, and we share a dressing room, and she was looking at me like I was absolutely insane. Like, she's like, you don't believe what they're saying. We're shutting down. We're shutting down for the month. At the time it was a month. We're shutting down for the month. And I was like, no, I don't believe it until Kevin comes and tells us.
Wow. And
I was so not aware.
Yeah, you were not ready to accept any secondhand news. So when Kevin did come and when you did hear it firsthand, what then? How did that feel different, if at all?
I was shocked. It was just complete shock. I was confused. I was concerned. I certainly did not think that it was going to be this long. I think that everyone else kind of thought that it was going to be this long, maybe longer. So they were more worried, obviously, about unemployment and all those questions, but a lot of those questions were not able to be answered at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, of course. And so when you say you were concerned, was it sort of, how did that sort of play into, where you were and where suddenly you were kind of forced to be almost like one of those time movies, where like something you're in the past and then suddenly you see something that kind of pulls you back to and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it was kind of, I wasn't really processing what was happening. We were all like, everyone, cast, crew, because we were all there. Mm-hmm. And Kevin and Jerry was crying. I'm pretty sure he was crying. I knew that when I looked at Jerry and saw that how upset he was, I knew that there was definitely something that we had to be worried about.
Yeah.
Because I trust him the most. Yeah. That was when I knew that I was like, oh, okay, maybe we should be doing this. This is correct. This is the right thing to do.
Right. So you sort of, it sounds like you had a little bit of that sort of, we're all in this together. That's how this is going to work. Is that right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that. And I mean, that's a great coping mechanism, right? Just to say, oh, yeah, that's amazing. So when you had those thoughts, like what actions did you take?
Well, I cried a lot and then I went home. For the first couple of days at home, I was just not aware. I guess it was I kept waking up in the middle of the night thinking, oh, I'm in my apartment. No, you're not. You're at your bed in your house. You're not, it's not a dream. This is real life. That was a good week of realization. And then once a week went by, my mom was like, okay, it's time for you to get up and go. Let's get some things going. And I was like, okay, great. What are we doing first? And she said, you're going to work out every day with me. And so I did. And that's what I did. And I have to say, Billy Blanks has changed my whole life. I do Billy Blanks every morning with my mom since a week after I was home. And that's when I realized I was not taking care of myself when I was in the show and at my apartment. And even when I was at school, I wasn't taking care of myself as I should be. So it was a realization that now I'm going to start taking care of myself.
Huh. Isn't it interesting, right? Then you're going along, you're in the moment, and everything is perfect. You're living the dream, as you say. It gets taken away from you. And although you're naturally, understandably feeling this limbo for a minute, it took something like doing something for yourself to realize what you had been missing when you were in that dream that you were living.
Yeah. I was not eating well at all. I was not exercising. I went to the gym like once or twice and not for long, the 2 times that I went. And my brain was and I wasn't getting enough sleep. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took a lot for me to realize that I need to figure out when I do go back, how I'm going to manage taking care of myself and my busy schedule, which I think I'm going to be able to do. I think I'm ready for that.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. So I'm curious, what is your definition of living in the moment?
Well, I think it's being positive and taking whatever life throws your way and just rolling with it. That's always what I've done ever since I was a kid. I don't do well with change, but once I just take the risk and just do it, then I'm fine. Even like trying foods, I would try, my parents would be like, you want to try this? It's an olive. I'm like, okay, great. And then I'd try it and I'd be like, oh, that's good. And they're like, you want another one? Nah, I'm good. So I always used to say that I wanted to try things, and I would do it. And just to say that I tried it. And even if I didn't like it, I tried it. So that's all that matters. And growing up in this business, especially, I took risks and I went to every open call that I possibly could. And I did both for Christmas Story and Godspell. When I did Godspell, I went on a limb and just went to an open call. Even though I had representation, I just did it because I was like, you know what? I'm here. Might as well go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's just about taking risks and just doing it.
That's interesting. I'm curious to sort of sit with that just for a minute, because what's coming up for me is that when there's a lot of action in that, a lot of, like you brought up the idea of risk and the idea of just going for it. And
yeah.
a lot of that sounds to me like a real strength of yours, clearly. Sort of this sort of willingness to trust the process.
Yeah.
And
it took a while.
Yeah. So how did you get there? I'm curious.
I think that I've been diagnosed with Crohn's disease since I was 10. So, and it was the same time that I was diagnosed that I had started acting professionally. So I think that when I met my doctor for the first time, and I'm still with them now, the first thing that came out of her mouth was, "You're not going to let this stop you." So I think in the back of my mind throughout everything, it was always that if I didn't take a risk, that it would be letting my Crohn's stop me. I feel like that was always in the back of my mind. And I just did it. I just would just go and just do things. And yeah, it's been there pretty much since a very young age that I've always been like, okay, something new, let's try it. Let's do it. Even if I'm uncomfortable. I was always uncomfortable doing new things, but I did it anyway in order to help myself grow.
I love that. That's fantastic. And it seems like it has certainly served you well. And
yes.
It's interesting because, we talk about living in the moment, and it's, it's not dwelling on the moment, because some people, quote unquote, stay in the moment, which is a very different thing than living. And you're really sort of drawing out the idea of motion as being sort of energy as being part of it. Yeah. So when does that make sense? That's
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, some people may define, and there's no right or wrong answer, but, may define living in the moment to being, just being very, very mindful and maybe meditating or whatever that may be. And it sounds to me like your definition is a little bit more accepting whatever comes and being okay with it.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I love that. So it's interesting because, there's a sort of a fallacy, which is knowing is half the battle, right? Which is like, knowing how to lose weight is half the battle. It's just not true, right? I mean, putting it into action. So it's interesting that when I think of that, that's what they call that, the G.I. Joe fallacy. It's kind of a positive psychology thing. It's sort of interesting that as I talk to you, it comes up for me because I'm thinking about, you don't know what's coming next. When you went to those auditions, when stuff happened to you, you didn't know, but you were willing enough to live in the moment of not knowing that moment. And it's, that's what sort of brings me to my sort of concept of calling this podcast Stop Time, because in music, stop time is that when the band keeps playing but sort of sits out so that the soloist can take the leap and make their own rhythms and kind of do their own thing, and still, but the time keeps going, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like this unique kind of beautiful moment. Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. So
thank you.
So with this, well, let me ask you, and I think it's pretty clear, but I'd love to just ask you, like, how much would you say you value living in the moment? Like, say on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like, it's the ultimate, most important thing to me, blah, blah, blah.
I'd say a solid 9.5.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I think a 9.5 because I have a lot of self-doubt, and I give the half a point to the 9.5. I give the half a point away for my self-doubt because I'm a perfectionist.
Okay.
And I think that being a perfectionist is a good thing sometimes, but you do have to, I guess they come hand in hand, because when I'm taking that risk, and I took that risk, and I literally, like for Christmas Story, I was at my dance class on Saturdays, and they were having the open call, and I was in flip-flops and sweats in my dance clothes, and my book was in the car, and I said to my mom, let's go get my book in the car. And then we bought a pair of sneakers on the street, and then we just went up to the audition, and I was the last person there. So I guess when I was younger, I didn't have that self-doubt, but as I got older, that was when it started to creep in, because there's like a stigma and a pin on the back of your back that says Broadway baby, and they're gonna, I don't know, I feel like they're gonna know you as the kid who was on Broadway at age 12 all the time. So you gotta like break out of that mold. So that was a lot of pressure. Yeah. But I feel like with self-doubt, there's always good to have a little bit of that, because that's what makes you stronger.
Interesting.
If that makes sense.
No, 100%. And that's really interesting. You know, that voice in your head that says, you know, that assumption that because I was on Broadway at 12, you know, everyone is going to associate with me with that. In coaching, we call that a gremlin, right? We call that, you know, the voice in your head that probably served you at one point, but that, you know, you got to a certain point where that voice is not helping you anymore. And, you know, we talk about repurposing that gremlin and sort of saying, okay, thank you. You're part of me. You were there for a reason. But moving forward, I don't really need you anymore. And how about we repurpose this energy? And if you were to do that with that gremlin, that you know, 0.5% that sort of keeps you from saying that living in the moment is something that would be a 10, how would you repurpose that energy or that message of the gremlin that says, everyone's always going to think that you're Broadway baby, blah?
Oh boy, I think that it's only been recent. Last year, my sophomore year of college was a bad year. Bad. Everything I did, it was just awful. I think about it, it was terrible. I just had a bad year mentally. And I thought my life was ending. I thought that the whole thing, everything that I had worked for was just not happening, and I wasn't where I should have been or where I thought I should have been. And when I got home that summer was what really, really helped me. And I took an improv class. And in that improv class for 4 weeks, it was like, they told me, just forget it. In the first class, I struggled so hard because, I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I don't do things. I can't think ahead. Like, I don't like to think ahead before I do things. I just like, you know, I get very stressed out easily. But I did it. And then the second class was what opened my eyes. And I said, no one's watching me. No one cares if I say water balloon instead of ball of yarn. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I guess that's what helped me, was just realizing and learning, and I'm still learning to realize that no one really cares. They don't care. No one cares, and neither should I.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So is that how you're going to re-script your gremlin? Is that the
yeah, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, but I've been getting better. I've been getting better at it. So
I love that. That's so awesome. Hey, I'm just going to ask you really, really quick. This is actually a technical thing. Do you hear a clicking?
No. It might be my headphones. Sometimes they click.
I think that's it, because they weren't click. There we go. That's better. Yeah.
Better? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. Amazing. That's so cool though, because the question, the original question was, how much do you value living in the moment? And it's interesting that you gave me a 0.5%, which at first would indicate there's a 0.5% that where I don't value it. Like it would take
Yeah.
another, yeah. And so it's really an interesting way of looking at it. And again, I think it speaks to the way I sort of interpret that is it speaks to your willingness to not know, and your willingness to see what that might look like when it's ready in the moment, when it's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. So how often do you practice living in the moment for this 9.5% of the, not percent of the time, but this 9.5 out of 10?
I'm not sure. I think I'd say a fair amount.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much, it kind of just happens. I don't know. Kind of just happens.
Can you,
Like
when you say it,
with this decision for me to go back to school, which is a very tough decision to make. I'll be honest, I was very against it at first. And then I thought about it, and I was seeing people's videos online of doing, and I figured, well, why shouldn't I do that? Why shouldn't I take that class? Why shouldn't I finish it out? So I think that was me living in the moment. I think it's when I make big decisions.
I love that. So it's kind of when you're facing, you're really sort of owning up to what it is that you're thinking about, trying to align your value with what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And stop for a moment and make decisions about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that, I love that. That makes sense, because I mean, we all face uncertainty, and we certainly are facing it now, right? For sure. And we can't control that. We can't control, the whatever we're dealt with. But what we can always be at choice is how we choose to feel about, or each moment, right?
Yeah.
And so you described that very well in saying that, it's when I'm making decisions it really shows up for you. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much energy would you say that you spend worrying about what you can't control?
Oh boy. Now I think maybe a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. I don't really I currently, I don't really worry about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, for example, with the shutdown, I was not worried about anything. I should have been, but even now,
Why should have you been?
because things were happening outside of the world, and I was just completely unaware because I was so focused on what I was doing at the time, and I guess I feel guilty about that.
Yeah, I mean, when you say should have, I mean, have you thought about asking yourself what difference it would have made had you worried? Would it have changed something?
But honestly, then there's another side of me that thinks that I was better off because, I mean, yes, I was washing my hands and taking care of myself, but I was more concerned about making the people coming to see the show happy than I was with, like, spreading infection. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know.
Interesting. Well, it's like the responsibility and the expectations changed, right?
Yeah.
You went from, getting ready to play this role for this, really exciting moment in theater history. Because I mean, who doesn't love Mrs. Doubtfire, right? I mean, come on. And I can imagine like how exciting that must have been for all of you, right? I mean, it wasn't your Broadway debut, so that would be a different experience. But it was a very special kind of moment, and then you all went through that together. And it makes perfect sense that when you're in previews, that you're laser focused. Of course you are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a group effort. It takes a village. There's hundreds of you working towards that, towards, like you said, opening for the audience to sort of show them what you've done and share with them. So it makes sense that when that got pulled out, that you had to like recalibrate for a bit and go, wait, what am I supposed to be doing? And then you hear the media saying you're supposed to do this and do that and do that, and your mother saying we're going home, you're moving. You're like, what the?
Yeah, I was really thrown for a loop. I was like, oh, what, huh? But now I'm happy. I think I needed this time. I mean, obviously I want to go back and I want to be there. And definitely going there on Friday to get my things is going to be very, very rough. But I do think that I needed this time for my body to recalibrate.
Mm-hmm.
So this way, when I do go back, I'm going to be ready to do that show for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah. And you'll be ready to serve like you wanted to, your audience,
Yeah.
right? To really
without anyone being afraid.
Yeah.
It broke my heart when we had to stop stage dooring for that one night.
Mm-hmm.
I only stage doored once because I came after first preview. I had 1,040 people there of all my family members, so I couldn't really stage door. But yeah, the second night I stage doored, and it was such a great feeling, and there were so many crowds there and so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a picture with someone, and then the next day she said, I have COVID. And I was like, I was just taking a picture with you yesterday. Okay, great. Really great.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're
my
counting your
mom
lucky
was
stars.
like, you were taking a picture with her and now she has COVID. Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Can you believe this is why you have to be cautious? I was like, I'm fine.
That's funny. I mean, not funny. I mean, thank God you're okay. And I hope she is
Yeah.
too. But
yeah.
but I hear you. I mean, the world just, changed, not just, for all of us in different ways. And that's why I'm so curious to know how energetically people are, able to show up for themselves. You seem like you're resonating in a very positive light, which is fantastic and infectious. And I love that. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a couple more things. I'm curious to know, what do you know will be true about you no matter what happens? About you. You know what I mean? No matter that, no pandemic can take away from you, no diploma, no role, no audition, no weather, no person, no bad voice in your head. Just, well, what do you know will be true about you no matter what happens?
I know that no matter what I do, that things are going to be out of my control. And the only thing that is in my control is if I work hard and I practice and I don't let any outside negativity, as hard as it is, into my brain.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I know that if I do that and I keep that in my brain, then I'm not going to change. And family comes first, always, without a doubt.
What if, just for fun?
Yeah.
What if performing suddenly became illegal and you could not do what you do? What do you know will still be true about you no matter what you do?
Well, I'll never stop singing. I'll never stop. I don't think I ever will. Yeah.
You'll always have singing.
I'll always have singing.
That's awesome.
And I'll always have dancing. I have
that.
this room where I could do my thing, I guess.
That's so sweet. So where do you see yourself 3 years from now, let's just say?
Boy, I'll be 20, 23, 24-ish.
You'll be over the hill, yeah.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God. Well, for starters, I really want a puppy, so hopefully I'll have one of those. I see myself hopefully on Broadway again. Hopefully, as Jerry would say, as a role with lines. Making people happy, surrounded by my family and my friends.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Big smile on her face. I love that. I love that.
The fact of me turning 21 in October is really making me nervous. I don't like that feeling at all.
Why? What are you afraid of?
I'm not. I just think I'm old and that I was just 10 years old yesterday. And it's weird. This whole thing is so weird to me. I think that my whole life is just a weird situation and I never expected any of this to happen.
Well, no. I mean, you didn't ask to be born, right? You just got born.
Yeah.
And you're in for the ride, though. It sounds like you're really in for the ride. I love that. In the moment, again, you're just like, well, here I am. I can imagine you when you were born. It's like, hello.
Yeah. I was always just doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Listen, I so appreciate you taking the time to be in the moment with me and with sharing your story. And before we say goodbye, I love to ask all my guests, what are the top 3 things that happened to you today so far?
Today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to go get my antibody test for COVID, which was actually at my high school that got shut down. I went to that high school for only 3 years. I transferred out of my senior year because of social stuff. But I wasn't really happy there. But I never got to go back there before it got shut down. So today, when I went to go get my blood test, I was there. And it was so strange, but I felt a lot of closure going there and just seeing the gym. I don't know. So that was a good thing that happened today.
That's cool.
I never knew I needed that.
Yeah.
I never knew, because I was so unhappy there for 3 years of my life, and I was miserable. But I was like, I never want to see that place again. And then when you get to go and you see it, you're like, interesting. This is what I needed for today. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's me. But that was one thing.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I mean, perspective is a gift, right?
Yeah. And it was in the gym, so they had the curtains open on stage, and right before they shut down, they had a big event in the gym where the drama program did a number from all of the shows that they have ever done, and they must have hung like the playbills of the shows on the top, and they were still there, and I got to like see the shows that I was in. So that was pretty cool. When I was sitting there, the woman was like, "What are you looking at?" It's like, I performed on that stage.
That's so cool.
So
I love that. Wow.
I needed that for my brain.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I did. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's also really sunny out today, so that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a voice lesson with my voice teacher who I hadn't seen in a while, so that was fun.
So those are your top 3. Amazing. Yeah. And what are you looking forward to for the rest of the day? Is there something that stands out that you're looking forward to?
Well, my favorite thing that happens every single day is me eating dinner. My parents laugh at me all the time. When they say it's dinner time, I bolt to the kitchen. Sometimes I trip over my own 2 feet and fall down on my way. I'm a big foodie. I love food. So dinner's my favorite part.
Oh my gosh. I think absolutely finish on that note. That's such a nice thought.
Yeah.
Because what better place to live in the moment than at the dinner table?
Yeah.
Listen, again, Analise, thank you so much. And I want you to stay safe and healthy. And I can't thank you enough for joining me today.
Thank you.
In music, stop time is that beautiful moment where the band is suspended in rhythmic unison, supporting the soloist to express their individuality. In the moment, I encourage you to take that time and create your own rhythm. Until next time, I'm Lisa Hopkins. Thanks for listening.